A couple of things that are strange about Los Angeles, and I'm not talking about the Hollywood world or anything like that. It's more the average car, you know, the Ford Taurus, the car that everyone drives. It's not a Ford Taurus in Los Angeles. It's not a Chevy, it's not a Dodge. It's a Porsche 911. Everyone and their brother seems to have a Porsche 911, and that's followed up by one other car. You guessed it, a Mercedes SL. So you can imagine I was none too excited when I booked a Mercedes SL. I mean, how could you go wrong? It's a two-seat convertible. It's, you know, straight across the plate of the kind of car I like to drive. No manual transmission, and even a totally new one with two turbos hanging off the engine. But that's not the only reason why I wasn't excited about it. It's got the same Camaro problem, the demographic of people who drive them. In Los Angeles, it's not like the problem that Camaro has over in like New Jersey, where it's like Vinny and Ronnie drive it down the Ave and say, yeah, we're gonna cruise for some chicks. Instead, the SL is more of the yummy mommy going to yoga in Brentwood.
This ain't no pushrod V8, folks. No, sir. It's a 4-cam engine, 2 overhead on each bank. It's bi-turbocharged, puts out 429 horsepower, but it puts out 516 foot-pounds of torque at between 1,800 and 3,500 RPM. That is just a flat power curve.
This car, the SL550, has been around for a little under a year at the point we're filming it. And I figured, you know, after a month or two, the newness is kind of wore off, especially in Los Angeles. Kind of everybody has an SL. So I didn't think this car would get much attention. I was incredibly wrong. I've had swarms of people come after this car and say, what the hell is that thing? And I'll admit, in pictures, it's an odd looking car. I've heard all of the arguments that the front looks like someone else designed the back and all this kind of stuff. And I'll admit the front, I really like the way the front looks. The back, I'm still not there. But as one piece in person, stunning car.
When you're under the SL, you get the sense that each part is an integral piece of a well-functioning machine. And here's a perfect example. This transmission mount is more than just a transmission mount. It provides torsional rigidity to the convertible under hard cornering. And you have fantastic access to all the hardware throughout. It's so beautiful, I don't even want to put it on a car. I want to take it home and hang it on my wall.
And then there's details, things you just didn't expect. If you guys have been following the show recently, Gene and I have been on a bit of a tear. Had a couple of Bentleys, had a Rolls Royce, had a different Mercedes. You know, we've had some good cars. So I really wasn't expecting details on a car like this. I mean, I'm still crying about the loss of the Bolzan. I know it's a machine-built serial production car, but there are details on it that shouldn't be in a car. I know this is gonna sound odd, that costs this little. The stitching looks like it's hand stitching. The wood is actually real wood. It's got this like satin finish on it, and so you get the feel like, you know what, that actually came from a tree. I can't say the same thing for the Ghost we drove.
This is the rack and pinion steering with the electronic power assist known as EPAS. And the EPAS system is the current trend. The manufacturers are getting away from the hydraulic pumps that ran off the engine and took horsepower and fuel mileage away. And this electronic power assist system is mounted in this beautiful aluminum subframe with this fabulous welding. Here is your typical stack of dimes that good welders always talk about. It's always been a pet peeve of mine. If you remember, about a year ago, we were covering a Bentley, and I remarked about the beautiful welding underneath. There's a fella in England named John who dubbed me Weldman because of that. Well, Weldman likes to see beautiful welds under a car where they're not expected to ever be seen, because that tells me that the manufacturer is conscientious.
When I was growing up, the SL was the 560. It was the last derivation of the Panzerwagen. And then it went to the 500 SL, at least in the US, and that was the stunningly beautiful Bruno Sacco design car that just leapfrogged the SL into the next generation. In 2002, they changed to a more svelte looking car, but it was still very much a GT car, which this is.
The SL is following the modern trend of expensive cars with big brakes. 14-inch diameter brake rotor, cross-drilled vented. But what's interesting here is that the 13-inch caliper with 4 pistons is powder coated.
Here's the part that really surprised me. Yeah, I wasn't excited about the car because it's an SL and there's a lot of SLs. But I expected it not to drive very well when you're carving canyons. I mean, it's a big, heavy car. It's 4,000 pounds. Yeah, lighter than other Mercedes, but still 4,000 pounds for a Lotus guy. That's a lot. But wow, it can go around corners and go around corners really well. Frankly, it surprised the crap out of me.
There's so much going on under the back of this Mercedes that I don't know where to begin, so I'm going to begin with the final drive. And the differential is driven by this typical Mercedes rubber viscous drive. And the advantages of the rubber viscous drive over a traditional U-joint is that it doesn't transmit vibration from component to component. At the front of the car and the rear of the car, we have these galvanized steel torsional reinforcements. Now remember, this is a convertible, and the whole idea is to keep it from flexing.
Not unlike that Jaguar XKRS we drove around the track about a year ago. That car, I mean, that's a big, big car. But like this one, it has exotic materials used in its construction. Mean Gene was telling me something about stainless steel even in this one. The Jaguar is all aluminum. This has a lot of aluminum, so it has a lot to do with the weight. I could easily see this car being 5,000 pounds, and it isn't.
The suspension components are absolutely magnificent. They've used different metals for different parts. For instance, this steering knuckle is forged aluminum. The upper control arm is made out of stainless steel, and its 2 pieces sandwiched together makes them lighter than cast iron and stronger than aluminum.
It's a triumph of engineering over mass. Yes, it's 4,000 pounds, but what this car has that not all of them have is the ABC system. And it's a very fancy German way of saying it has an air suspension that will put air into one side of the car under load. So if I throw it in a corner like this, wow, does this thing go around.
Here we have the air suspension and the height control. And they are computer controlled, but the driver has settings ranging from soft to sport.
On the GT side of things, okay, I will definitely admit I am a Lotus guy, but I do love toys. This has the coolest seats I have ever experienced. Not only are they dynamic in that, I go around a corner, do this, and I feel the support on one side or the other, and it moves as I'm going around the corner. Then, it's got massaging seats. It's kind of a trick you reserve for date night. Just kind of put your date over there, and then you set it to put on fast and vigorous, and just watch the excitement unfold. Out of all the cars I drive, there are very few I'd actually write the check for, and you guys know the extent of that list. At the top, of course, is virtually any Lotus, followed in a very close second by my Dodge Challenger SRT8 rally car. And then from there, I'd have to round out the list. Things like an Audi R8, a Porsche Cayenne Turbo, maybe a Jeep Grand Cherokee SRT8, and of course, you gotta have something more frugal like a Passat diesel with a manual transmission. And then, how can you go wrong with a Boss Mustang Laguna Seca 302 or a Camaro ZL1? So I really didn't expect this car to be on that list. I mean, after all, if I'm really telling the truth, this is the cheap seats of the SL world. But here's the thing that surprised me so much about the SL550. For a 6-figure car, it totally bats above its station in life.